Welcome, everyone, to the Modern Day Overthinker podcast. My name is Colin, and I'm your host. This episode is one of my favorites so far. I mean, I have a lot of favorites, and I'm not going to tell you all of them because I don't want to make people mad, but this story is incredible. So, Thomas Craig VIII, first of all, I'll introduce him as the host of the Sick Burn podcast. So, sickburnpodcast.com. You can find all you need to know about his podcasts. He is a plane crash survivor and a burn survivor. I don't know whether to call this guy blessed, lucky, whatever you want to call him, but I'm glad he's still here. Great guy, hilarious, great sense of humor. We talk about that in the recovery process being a key instrument in his recovery, and I know that he is just getting started when it comes to his work with podcasting and sharing his story with the world and sharing other stories with the world that make people know, that let people know they're not alone, and that whatever they're going through, they can get through it. So, with that being said, this is episode number 92 of the Modern Overthinker podcast with Thomas Craig VIII. And you're like, oh man,
I know, you're like, yeah, that was such a good episode. Oh yeah, we didn't record it. That's great.
Let me see. Okay. I think we are recording, and
Cool.
just to get your name right, Thomas Craig VIII.
Yeah.
Man, you got to give me a little bit of info on that when we start.
Okay. I
officially.
will.
But yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the Modern Day Overthinker podcast. My name is Colin, and I'm your host. Today's guest is Thomas Craig VIII. He is one of the... Are you the main host of the Sick Burn podcast or co-host?
Yeah, I'm the host.
Host.
My wife stepped in one episode, but I'm pretty much just the host.
Yeah, so she works behind the scenes more.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, good to have you with you, Tom. Good to have you with us today, Thomas. And I know you got a wild story to share with us, and I have plenty of questions. But just before we get started, I just kind of want to do a quick intro and share a little bit about what you do and how we kind of connected in the podcast world.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, thank you so much for inviting me today and having me on. This is great. We were kind of talking about this before we started recording. There's not a lot of dudes talking about mental health, so
No.
I appreciate you for doing this. That's kudos to you, man. But yeah, I'm originally from Hawaii, born and raised out there. In 2011, I got a big sports marketing job at a huge global sports brand, and it was
Sick.
like, what am I doing here? This is way bigger than I should be, like this kid from Hawaii on this tiny island. But
Did you go to school for marketing?
no, I actually went to school for communication. I
Close.
guess there was close. There was marketing elements in there, but I really thought I was going to be a marriage and family therapist. It's kind of the direction I was going in.
Okay.
Yeah. And then through crazy circumstances, I was already kind of helping my dad at this company, and an ex-girlfriend of mine beat me out for a position in grad school. And so I was like, all right, screw it. I guess I'm just going to work. And then that it took off from there. And then my path kind of landed me in California working all these different marketing events.
Okay. So you went from marketing, and then how did that transition into flying?
Yeah. So it was something my grandpa always brought up, Thomas Craig VI. And he had this brief stint where he was a commercial pilot. He was flying, I want to see if it was for Frontier. And when all of the soldiers came back from Vietnam, he got booted. So like if you were a service member and you flew, like they gave them these positions, probably rightfully so. My grandpa was pretty reckless, so maybe it was a good thing overall.
Yeah.
But he would always kind of tell me these stories. And eventually this company got bought by an Italian company that I was working at, and the whole culture changed. Like all my coworkers that I loved, they started like leaving the company, and my job didn't exist anymore. I was like behind a keyboard hitting spreadsheets, and it just wasn't me. And so they offered me this position in LA. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. You know, I did it for a couple of years. I hated the job. Like, I loved the company. I loved a lot of the people that worked at the company, but just like the day-to-day job and then you're in the trenches, I just hated it. And I thought, oh, it'd be cool to get my pilot's license. I could fly my friends to like different places. We can grab lunch or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And my grandpa sends me this article, and I think it was like 2016 or 2017. It said 500,000 pilot shortage by 2024. I was like, oh, crap. Okay. Like, there's going to be a lot of need for pilots. What does it look like if I take this seriously and try to do it for a job? And then I just started. I didn't know anybody besides my grandpa a long time. And he only did it again for like a brief stint.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody who was a commercial pilot. So I just started like asking everybody I knew, like, hey, do you know anybody who's a pilot? And I ended up getting connected with a friend who was a friend with somebody else who was a pilot. And then my mother-in-law, who was just my girlfriend's mom at the time, she knew a pilot at American Airlines. And so I just called them. I was picking their brain. How do you do this? Like, how do I get all my pilot's license? How do I become a commercial pilot? And they broke it down for me. And after, I thought about it for a while, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. Like, before I turn 30, I'm going to go and get my commercial pilot's license. I don't like this job anyway. I don't have any deep ties. Like, at this time, she was just my girlfriend. I was like, screw it. Let's go to flight school. Let's become a pilot.
Yeah.
And I found a flight school in Colorado. I got the student loan to do it. And yeah, from like 2017 to 2018, I saved money. And just busted my butt so I had some money to get me through flight school. And yeah, I moved to Colorado with my girlfriend and did it. I just kind of in a year knocked out all my pilot's credentials. Everything from you get a private pilot's license, you get what's called an instrument rating, allows you to fly in clouds and fog. And then you go to your commercial licenses. You still can't fly the big jets yet. But in order for you to get to the airlines, you need 1,500 flight hours. So the easiest way to do that is to become a flight instructor. So I got all my instructor ratings, and me and my girlfriend at the time, she's now my wife, knew we wanted to get back to California. She missed her family. I missed my friends. And so I just started applying for all these different flight schools in California, and I got a job here in San Diego where I'm currently based.
Nice.
And yeah, at first it seemed like a dream, man. I was flying, getting paid for it, and teaching students how to fly different types of planes. And it was all going good until about 3.5 months into the job where I wasn't flying a plane, but one of the students was, and we ended up kind of crashing outside of a Las Vegas airport.
So it was just you and the person you were instructing?
Unfortunately, no. There were some other passengers there, and I'm not going to go too deep into them and their story, but there was other people, unfortunately, who did pass away in the accident as well.
And and you barely survived. I've looked through your Instagram and was able to look at some of the videos of you just being in the hospital, learn how to walk again. So you had to learn probably a lot of different things, I'm assuming, because you were in the hospital for how long?
Yeah, I was in and out of the hospital for a year, but mainly the first stint in the ICU was almost 6 months.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, it was it really was just this life-altering, life-rocking moment. It just kind of shook everything to the core, and it Because you know that there's danger, right? Like you drive your car, you're like, oh, okay, somebody might be crazy or a tire might blow out. Like, there's possibilities for danger, but not in a million years did I think what would happen to us would happen. And literally from the time we started rotating or like lifting off the ground to about crashing, it was probably 10 seconds or less. I mean, it was fast. At least in my mind, I don't really know the exact time because everything is just kind of weird when you're in that moment. But I mean, it felt like it was like 10 seconds. And I kind of after we crashed, I woke up and it was like a movie. There was like blood dripping on me and my vision was like in a dead circle just right at my chest. And it was all hazy around that circle. And then all of a sudden my vision started coming back and back and back. And then at that moment, I could start hearing the fire and the people in the plane. And then I could start seeing the fire. And then all of a sudden, I could start feeling it on my skin, like how hot everything was. And I wasn't even consciously thinking. My body was just moving. It got off the seatbelt. I did have this one thought, though. I was like, man, if I don't get out of this plane, nobody's getting on this plane. Just because of how the plane is situated with the seats and everything. And somehow, I got that seatbelt off. I opened the door and I ran. I got out, jumped on the wing, and was able to run out behind the plane.
That is wild, dude. Thank you for sharing that with me because I know it's probably brings back some bad memories. And but as far as you surviving, I saw what it looked like, the picture of what it looked like. And so your survival rate was very low. You were a very lucky man. Oh, no. Some people might call it luck. Some people might call it something else. But
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There was a lot of this recovery. I'm coming up on 6 years now. For a lot of this recovery, I did not feel like luck. It felt like I was the most unlucky person in the world, right? And that's at least the story I was telling myself. Because I'm like, dang, I was 1/3 of the flight hours away from getting to an airline. I was like, this close to being a commercial pilot. I had changed my life around. I had left this company that I had known pretty much my whole life, and a ton of people there that I grew up with, and it just felt like, man, after I'd gotten so far and pushed so hard for this thing to be right at the edge, or just to be about to cross the finish line and then have this accident happen. I just thought for so long I was so unlucky. But as far as survival rate goes, I don't know, because I was kind of unconscious for about a month and a half. I was like in a medically induced coma. And so what they told my girlfriend and my parents at the time was like, hey, he has a less than 10% chance of surviving. And so they really didn't know how much time I was going to have left or if I was going to pull through this. And so I do kind of think about that sometimes when I feel like I'm unlucky.
Yeah, that's a gratitude moment for sure.
Yeah. Yep, definitely.
So eventually you got into podcasting initially during the pandemic because you were home, needed some stuff to do, keep yourself entertained. And then you've had a couple different ways of podcasting. I didn't mean to say it like that, but a couple different types of podcasts that you've had. And now, recently in February, you started the Sick Burn Pod, which is a savage name in itself.
Okay, good. I'm glad you catch the joke. Some people are like, "Ooh, are you okay with that?" I'm like, yes,
I'm a comedian, so I'm like, "Oh man, he went dark." All right, but it's a great name for the podcast, regardless. And you have people on. You kind of do what I like to do and have people share their stories. Share their struggles and how they got through them and. Tell us that if you just had to give like a little like snippet of like what the podcast is all about, what would you tell people?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting. It was something that I didn't know I wanted to do for a long time. And it was something, even going back to the name, right? Like when I was in the hospital, I was about 70% burn, 30-degree burns. And so, I didn't even know what a burn survivor was. And I was mainly in the burn ICU. And so, you heal up as best as you can, and I'm now scarred up, and the surgeries and all the wound care, all that was brutal. But one thing that kind of saved me getting through the hospital was kind of having a sense of humor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, saved me so much. And I would just, like, my dad was like, he's like, I always thought you were kind of funny, but he's like, you were the funniest in the hospital. You were like, everything was a joke, and it was just so I could survive. There's even a really good one of the paramedics that picked me up, because after I stopped, dropped, and rolled, like, my body was paralyzed. He put me on a stretcher. They put me in the ambulance, and the entire time they were rushing me to the ER, for some reason, my fight or flight response was just to bust jokes with him the whole time. I was like, what, this driver, like, picked the bumpiest road in all of Vegas? Like, what the hell is he doing? This guy should get fired. He was cracking up. He was like, all right, man, I'm going to have to cut off your pants just so we can, like, check everything. I was like, all right, just letting you know, nothing impressive down there. He's like, what? You're running jokes and you could die. But anyway, so that really helped save me. And I love comedy. Yeah, and so I thought Sick Burn was an appropriate name, and I like you probably did, I bounced around all these different names, and, like, for some reason that one I just kept coming back to that one. So I think it was, yeah, right. So I think it's that perfect blend of me, in a sense, right? I'm a burn survivor, but I got the Hawaii, California maybe attitude sometimes. I've always been kind of chill, and I love puns. So, like, Sick Burn, rather it just, someone getting you with a good razz or joke or shit talk or whatever, I think it kind of just plays to my overall personality. And but really what I wanted to do was find a podcast or create a podcast that I would have liked to hear when I was going through my recovery. Which is, like, other people overcoming their adversity, overcoming their mental health struggles, how they then turned these moments, their darkest moments, into ways that would motivate them for the rest of their life or to get to better places in life. And I'm like, shoot, maybe I can just make this. Like, I don't see it. I can't find the exact podcast that I would have liked to hear when I was struggling and when I was at my lowest. I'm going to just try to make this thing. And then the Sick Burn podcast was kind of born, and then kind of announced it in September of 2024.
Okay. So you had a little rollout and everything.
But then, and you know this too, it's like one thing to say you're going to do something, and then it's like a whole nother thing to, like, actually do it.
Yep.
Right. So last September was my 5-year anniversary from the date of the accident. And you want to talk about, like, mental health and just kind of cognitive dissonance and thoughts, I'm like, God, just, there was mourning for the life I lost. There was mourning for the limbs I lost. There was mourning, like, all these things. And on the flip side to that, it was like, well, through that, my girlfriend stayed with me. She's incredible. She was there with me through the hospital, through the whole thing. We eventually got married.
Awesome.
Thank you. The time in COVID allowed me to be with my family and then discover podcasting. I started a podcast with my friends, and it was just goofing around, and it was like, oh, yeah, dude, we're getting 10 listens. Oh, we got 15 on this one.
Yeah.
And the little progress there, and then trying to learn how to do it better. And we were talking about mics offline. It's like learning little tips, tricks, tools, all of that stuff was like, oh man, like, this is cool. And it kind of, again, not to make another fire analogy, but it lit this fire in me. And it was like, wow, I can still be excited about things again, because that time from getting out of the hospital till up in that moment with my friends, like, I didn't even know if I wanted to be around anymore. I was like, I just kind of want to throw in the towel. Like, I changed so much in my life to get to that
depressed.
point. Super depressed. And in that time in the hospital, like, I couldn't walk, talk, breathe, or eat on my own. I needed help for everything. And I went from being this super independent person. I'm never asking for help. I'm never taking another dime from my parents. I'm going to be this badass individual, and I'm always going to get better, and I'm always going to improve. I was that person to now I can't even, like, feed myself, and it just fucked with my head so hard.
I bet.
It was like, dude, what happened? And, like, now people are clapping for me because I can take 2 steps to the door. I was like, what? it destroyed my world. It just really did. And so to say that fire that got lit in me when I first started podcasting with my friends, like, it was this major, major shift in my life. And it sounded so small. Maybe it does to other people, but it was this huge milestone for me.
Sounds like purpose to me. Yeah, like you figured out you have a purpose, and when you're out, especially after something like that happens, and you're just questioning everything, like, did I just waste? You probably were thinking, did I just waste half my life, or things like that, and you had a lot of time to think about it, which is scary.
Yeah. I was just trapped in my mind, and at least when they sedated me, I would have these crazy, and I've talked about this on my show,
dreams.
But yeah, these crazy dreams. But the weird part is that I couldn't wake up. So I would be stuck in these dreams. And I mean, a lot of them are just nightmares. Yeah. And I couldn't wake up, and just being stuck in that for what felt like an eternity. Like, you ever watch Inception?
I don't know why I've never seen Inception. It's probably
you gotta watch
something
Inception.
you can
Something
you could burn me about, because it's a good movie. I know that.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to explain it to my wife, and this is why. Like, I was like, I had watched Inception before the accident, and then when I watched it after the accident, I was like, that's it. Where it's like you can't wake up unless something dramatic happens. And in that dream, you can't tell how much. Is it a day? Is it a week? Is it a month?
Yeah, time doesn't make sense.
Yeah, totally. And it felt so real. But just getting stuck in that, I think it really just fucked with me. And then when I did wake up, the horror of real life, of seeing what condition my body was, I didn't even know I was missing fingers. Like, they were bandaged up, and I could still feel them. Like, I could still feel my pointer fingers to this day. They're not there, but I could feel it. And so I didn't know what was missing underneath there and what condition. There was no mirrors in there. So there was no mirrors for like months. And everybody just kept saying, you just look like you got a bad sunburn. You just look like you got a bad sunburn. That was not true. I was missing ears. I didn't have really bottom eyelid.
But
no, you can't. But it's true.
That's a little light on what actually happened,
Right. But now, it's like I was all of these things though, right? I was mad about it for a while.
Yeah.
But I kind of understand, and through the first step was like starting a podcast and realizing like, okay, I still have value. I still have something I can share with people. And then getting into therapy. And it took me a while to find my therapist.
Oh, I know how that goes.
Right? It's like you think, I don't know what people think, but I used to think like if you go to a therapist, it's just like, well, they're like a barber. They could just be able to cut your hair like every barber. But it's like, no. Once you go to that person who you like, who cuts your hair, you keep going back to them. That's kind of what I feel like. Yeah, therapy became. Totally.
So when did therapy start? I know mental therapy, I should say.
Yeah. So they started in the hospital. They had a psychologist come to me, and they're like, "Oh, we need to get you on some medication." I was like, "I don't need that." Like, granted, I would randomly just completely break down, and just like the amount of like terror. So yeah, I'm clinically diagnosed with PTSD, but just the jumpiness and for years. I'm trying to think of when it kind of went away. It might have been in 2021 when the nightmares stopped hitting me, but like I'd have these intense nightmares and stuff. So I started in the hospital, and then because mine was a workplace accident, workers' comp was like, you got to go see a talk therapist, a psychologist, and a psychiatrist. So, it was a combination of like, all right, now I'm on this medication, and I have these weekly talk therapy sessions that I got to go to. And then the first couple of them were not good. Like and granted, these guys had been around for a while. They were older gentlemen. Mm-hmm. They knew their stuff, but they were treating me like somebody who was out of a textbook rather than like a person,
Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you're saying.
Right. And it just became these surveys and charts. And I was like, I don't think I'm getting anything out of this.
Yeah, like fill out this form in 1 through 5 and all that stuff. Oh, man.
Yeah.
No.
Right. It's not, it just didn't work for me. And I'm not going to say it's not going to work for other people. It could, but it just really didn't work for me. It didn't jive with me. It didn't make me feel better. Right. And I was over it. I was like, screw it. This just isn't for me. I'm not going to do it anymore. And so from the time I left the hospital to around this time, it might have been like middle of 2021. So I'd already seen maybe like 2 or 3 psychologists by then. And this guy, yeah, he was like either, again, like 3 or 4. In the first few months, I was not into it. Like I was not kind to him, and I wasn't kind to a lot of people because I was just so bitter and mad about everything.
Bitter. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was extremely nice, and he just kept asking questions. He was like, well, what about this? How do you feel about this? And it was intense, and we had to go, through the day of the accident, countless times and certain moments in the accident. And I would just, I would fight him, and then it eventually, it was like, he seems like he cares, and he just wants to know. So I just started giving him leaning into the therapy, and then just answering the questions, and then it clicked for me, like, no, he does care. You're going to get more out of this if you put more into it. And it's crazy. To this day, he's still my therapist.
A true therapist, in my mind, is someone who's passionate and who does care. I've come across the textbook therapists, and they're just doing it, just to get paid. It's like their job, like they're clocking in, like like that. That's not the therapist I want to see. That's for sure. And I know exactly what you're talking about when you find one. Like I recently found one this year, and I hope she does not have plans to change fields or retire or retire early or whatever. Because she's solid. Like, and it's not like I don't have to wait till the next session to reach out to her either, which is also cool. I can be like, hey, I'm having a bad day, and she's like, do you want to check in? And then we'll make it happen. Like, it's really cool. It's like almost like having a therapist on retainer. Like she's like a lawyer but a therapist. Oh
wow.
That's amazing, man. It's great, man. And I didn't have that for the longest time. And a little bit about me, like it's been a weird year for me. So the podcast was on hiatus for like almost a year.
Oh wow.
Because last year around this time, I went into a mental health treatment center for OCD. I don't know if you know anything about OCD, but it can be really, really frustrating. And I just was not, it just like consumed me. And I've had OCD since I was a kid, but a couple things happened that kind of like just made things worse. And I ended up in a treatment center for 60 days, and then I did outpatient for 5 weeks. And this was all in Wisconsin. Like, I was away from home this whole time. Got to go on leave for my job, which I'm glad they took me back after that. But that's a big part of my story, and it's hard not to talk about because it was such a big chunk of my last year. It felt like, and when I think about that time, it's like, man, that was like, I was like in a parallel universe, like in treatment, like time didn't make sense. Like it was, but I met like just the coolest people there, and people that suffer from OCD. Most of them are highly intelligent people. I'm not saying I am. But
you seem like it. Those glasses, dude. You look smart, man.
It's the glasses, man. That's why I wear them. No, but like I met some of the just the most interesting people there, and the wildest stuff was holding them back when it came to OCD and obsessions and compulsions and rituals and things like that. And I've had one of them on as a guest so far, but I also don't want to be like breach like anonymity type of thing, like HIPAA stuff. I wouldn't be I wouldn't be violating HIPAA, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's like you don't want to. That's the tough part. Yeah, I love that you're bringing that up because it's like, even with the Sick Burn show, it's like there's other burn survivors like me, and you see them and you're like, God, I want to like know their story and kind of share it, but is it like exploitative? You know what I mean? Like, am I trying
to
my
like story to share? That's how
true.
I feel sometimes. Depending on like your relationship with them. Like, I've shared a couple things about people that I know, like especially because I'm in recovery too. And I quit drinking 8 years ago, and I meet some of the most interesting people at meetings, and I won't talk about what they've necessarily shared in meetings because you're not supposed to do that. It's like a big no-no. But like if you talk to, but they share stories. When we go out to eat and hang out, and like there's people I know that they don't care. And I'm not saying their name, so it's not like anybody. They'd have to really do some research to try to track that person down. And,
right.
And so I try to get vague, but there's certain stuff that and people that were there for me, and people that just have great stories that I've been able to offer snippets of, and then some of them I've had on the podcast because they're willing to share their story. I can share most of my story. I'm pretty open. My company knows I do this, but I also have to watch certain things. Like, I can't get too opinionated on things, and get canceled.
Right. So wait, I got a question for you though. So you go through that treatment, you come out. How has that? You talked about like it's such like a weird time, like you can't tell time. Like when you got out, did all of a sudden it take you a while not only to adjust to like normal time of how people operate, but also just like normal life?
Oh yeah, dude. Like, cause I didn't have to really worry about a lot of things. I didn't have to. I mean, bills were still getting paid. I still had to make sure bills were paid, obviously, because those do not stop wherever you go. So I was making sure those were getting paid, and but I came back. I'm a homeowner, so I came back to my house, and luckily I have awesome parents, and they kept up with like the lawn and stuff like that, and did some renovations to my house while I was gone because they're retired, and my dad likes working on stuff, and they were able to do some projects while I was gone, and so I came back like to a very in the best way possible, but it doesn't matter like how set up I was. It was still weird as shit. Like, it was so weird just being, because before I went to treatment, I wouldn't leave the house unless I absolutely had to. I was so scared of every little situation. I had all these scenarios in my head, and I was just stuck. And just like going to the grocery store was weird, and like going back to the gym I used to go to and things like that, and going back to work. Man. But yeah, it's and going back to meetings, that was another thing. I couldn't go to meetings while I was in the 60-day program. I couldn't go to recovery meetings. They didn't have them. Which, don't get me started on that. But anyway, it's overall the treatment was fantastic, and they just that's just one of the things I need to let them know feedback wise. Like, hey, like, there are people that have like, there's a reason why people go to meetings regularly. Like, luckily in there, like I wasn't, there wasn't any alcohol or anything. Nobody was drinking or anything. Like, they would have got kicked out. So
Okay.
I didn't have any like, there wasn't really anything to tempt me there. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
That
I
makes
had
sense.
that going for me. So I didn't feel like, like, oh man, I want to, go out and get wasted or anything like that. I didn't really have those feelings, but
Yeah.
it would have been nice to be able to go to a meeting, and just, meet with my fellow people, and,
Yeah.
that's like the first thing I did when I got out, when I was able to, because when I did outpatient, I lived at a hotel for 5 weeks. It was a nice hotel, like, and I could like basically walk to the to this treatment center. I didn't because I was lazy, but and it was cold sometimes. So like
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
that was the main reason. One of the main reasons, but yeah, that was one of the first things I did was go to a meeting and get connected with people, and I still have some numbers from people in Wisconsin. So if I'm ever in that area again, I can reach out to them. And
Yeah.
Wisconsin people are awesome, man. I really enjoyed Wisconsin. Like I'd been there before, but I hadn't spent that much time there. And Wisconsin's a cool. They got. Yeah, I mean, besides their obsession with alcohol,
Okay, yeah.
they really like drinking in Wisconsin. But they
Yeah.
also like eating, and I like eating too. So
Heck yeah. Ooh, I know. I love eating. Two of my really good friends are from there. I've never been, but
they're
yeah,
great,
like
aren't they?
good people come. Yeah, great
Yeah.
people come out of Wisconsin, which is awesome. So it's a sign I probably need to make it out there. But kind of,
Go to
I love what
Milwaukee.
you were saying. Go to Milwaukee. I need to do that too.
Milwaukee's nice.
My wife kind of grew up in Minnesota for a little bit before she
Okay.
moved out. Her family moved back to California, and then that's where we met. But
We're at Minnesota.
I know one part was like
quizzing you.
Ramsey. Yeah,
I went. I only know certain parts
Yeah.
anyway. Like you would have to say Minneapolis or like St. Paul or something for me to really actually.
Right. I don't know, dude. Yeah, that's when she was younger. No, I
Yeah,
should
I
probably
get it.
find out. But I know where her family in like the Michigan area and all that is. But
Okay.
I want to kind of go back to what you were saying about, yeah, just that process and then being in a situation with people who are kind of going through what you're going through, right? Like, yeah, it brought me back to when I was in the hospital a lot in the ICU, and it's like you start becoming that patient or that person, And I think one thing that's kind of understated whenever you're recovering from something that's pretty chronic or very intensive is that you start kind of molding yourself into that role, if that makes sense. Like I became a patient. I went from, again, being this super independent person and I'm going to do, and like, you can't control anything where I was at. Like I couldn't, I don't get to necessarily decide when I eat. I don't necessarily decide when they do the bandage changes. I don't necessarily decide when they come in and take blood tests, and like, it just happens. And so it was a big transition from, again, going from super independent person to patient, and then again from patient to non-patient. And I think that was like,
So that was like
such-
your identity for a while.
yeah, and but people don't talk a lot about that. And it's something that's why I was curious when I asked you,
Yeah.
because it's just like the world operates differently in there. And the way you looked at time before, like, all right, I got to get up at this time so I can get ready, so I can get to work. And then I can do this after if I want to have, and it's like, that's not what it's like once at least I don't know what your situation was like, but for me, that's not what it was like in the hospital.
No.
It's on everybody else's time, sort of. And then you just have to just accept it. And so it really kind of forced me to stop, especially in like, I guess like in my life 2.0, sometimes the way I like to think of it, just kind of accepting what is and stop trying to control. And of course, like I still do that. I still want to,
course.
as I get more independent in life and I get more things back to me, like I want to get more control. But there is a side of me that also remembers that there's very little that I am in control of, and that I have to kind of accept things as they are. And that doesn't mean you're just bending over and taking it. You're just kind of allowing life's ups and downs to wash over you and sometimes through you. And I think that's okay. And yeah, I think about that a lot. You mentioned something else, and I literally just did a video today about that, about like our mindset and our thoughts, right? Because the way I used to talk to myself before the accident was motivating, but it was brutal. I was so hard on myself, and I was so like, suck it up, you're being a pussy, you're like, you suck at this, you're like, the only way you're gonna be able to make it in this program is if you work 10 times harder than everybody. And like, I used to have that dialogue in my head.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you are stuck in a hospital bed and the only thing you can really move is your neck up and down, and that's the only physical ability, talking to yourself like that doesn't work. All it does is destroy the little bit of energy you have. And have you ever heard of this book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl?
I don't think so. There's so much out there, but yeah,
there is so much out there.
Tell me about it.
It's incredible. So what happened was, he was a psychologist, but he was also Jewish, and he got put into a camp in Auschwitz. And rather than just getting stuck and feeling down, and don't get me wrong, I mean, he says it too. Like, these moments where I'm sad, and
wasn't great. Yeah,
exactly. In that, I mean, he's seeing friends
Terrible.
and loved ones die, but he also was able to tap into something that allowed him to get through those hellish moments. And I only discovered this after I got out of the hospital and I went through my thing. But one thing that we can control in some ways is the thoughts that we can accept. And I'll say it one more time. The one thing we can control in life is the thoughts that we can accept. We can't control every thought that pops up into our head. We can't control every feeling that we have. But whether we want to believe it's true or accept it is up to you. And I think that's so important for me, because I see, and another thing that made me want to do Sick Burn was I saw so many people during COVID that were hurting, and they were struggling, and they were so mad, and they were so sad, and understandably so, for sure. But as somebody who almost just died and was still trying to heal up from burn wounds all over my body, and could barely walk and could barely, I was just learning how to use my hands again. It was so confusing. I'm like, what do you have? And don't get me wrong, this is just the dialogue going in my head. I mean, these people, I'm not trying to be harsh on them by any means, but it made me so kind of upset that they were upset about their situation when they were physically all good. Financially, they were set. They had people that loved them. They had a roof over their head. They had food on the table. Like, your life is good. Maybe you don't have the same freedom you had before, but your life and what you can do still is amazing. Like, I can't do half that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
So why do I feel better about it than you do? And I was like, man, it really doesn't matter the situation. What matters is the thoughts that go into our head and how we receive those thoughts and then act upon those thoughts. I feel like. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something here. Maybe this is a message I can share with other people to help them kind of inject a little bit more positive thinking into their own lives.
Oh, I struggle with positive thinking. My therapist will tell you, like, I am the, I am the hardest person on myself. Like, she's just like, she always ends every session now with, be nice to yourself, okay? And I'll be like, I'll try. That's all I say. I'll try. I'll give it my best shot.
Yeah, but wouldn't you agree, like, that's still a worthy fight, though? Like, just to try.
Yes. It is worthy. I have to keep fighting. Like, otherwise it could get real dark real quick, man. Like, it's... Yeah. I also... I've been diagnosed with major depressive disorder, so things can get real dark real quick. And... Yeah, and I think, like, and I do think the opposite of what you were thinking was, like, there's people, like, that have it way worse than me. Why am I sad?
Right.
Like,
Right.
why am I depressed? And why can
Yep.
I not get motivated to get out of bed? I have, like, the basic needs and good family and so many good things. I could write down all these things that I'm grateful for, which I probably need to do more often. People have told me that, and I always think, oh, okay, I'll write it down.
Right.
And,
yeah. Sure. I'll keep a gratitude journal. Sure.
yeah, I keep a gratitude
And
journal,
then-
but the
and
people
then
that do it, like, they swear by it. I'm just like, all
Yeah.
right, maybe I need to call. I need to call them out and see if what they're saying is true, because there's got to be some truth to it, because a lot of people do it. And,
Right.
Yeah, the positivity thing. It's like my brain is just so wired to find the negative thing. Like, I am going through a process of rewiring my brain into thinking, oh, I can, but that's the funniest thing about it is when it comes to somebody else comes to me and they're like, they got this going on. I'm like, well, look at this and this, and like, kind of like,
Yeah. But now it's easier for you to see the positives to tell them, right?
yeah. But when it comes
Yeah.
to me, it's like, yeah, you did this, but you didn't do that, so you suck. Like, basically, like, and it's just like,
Yep,
man.
yep.
And I've heard the analogy, like, would you talk to your friend that way? Absolutely not. But
Yeah.
but my friend doesn't, understand, doesn't go through what I go through or whatever. It's just,
Yeah, you can make excuses for it. And,
Oh, yeah.
and you're a very smart individual. Most smart people, that's the thing when it comes to accepting your thoughts. You find ways to justify the reason you're feeling certain ways, right? Like you're so smart, you can convince yourself, well, because of this, and this. And it's like, yeah, but if the negatives are true and you convince yourself, could the opposite also be true? Could you start convince yourself? And I'm going to give you a ton of props that you recognize it and that you're trying, because I know how hard it is. I agree with you. I have the same diagnosis, and it's like, it's super easy for me to just be like, well, yeah, this sucks and like everything's ruined. And then just once I'm on that track, that train is running. I can't stop that. It's so hard. But, yes, but the ironic part is when I see it in a friend, it's like, oh, but like, dude, look, you have this going on, and like your job's good, and your girl loves you, and
Yeah.
and it's like easy for me to pick out the positives in them. It's harder for yourself, and that's why I love that you said, would you talk to your friend that way? Because I do believe the best way we can talk to ourselves is the same way we could talk to one of our best friends. Hey man, I know that's a bummer, but you can keep going. Man, yeah, I guess you could have stayed at the gym longer, but you know what? Hey, at least you showed up. It's those things where
Yeah.
you would talk to your buddy, and I forget that sometimes, just like I forget to do the gratitude journal. Like, there are mornings, some weeks where I'll wake up, I'll get some sunshine, and it sounds cheesy as hell. It sounds like Thanksgiving dinner, but it's like, all right, say 3 things you're grateful for. And it really does kind of set this mood that just allows more opportunity and just like positivity and sometimes happiness to kind of sink in there.
Yeah, that got me thinking. So what's the day in the life now that your life is had to completely change after getting out of the hospital? So what's a day in the life now? What do you do? What keeps you busy? I know you're married. I know. Spoiler alert, you have a kid on the way. I saw it on your Instagram, so congratulations on that.
Thank you,
That's
man.
awesome, dude.
Thank you.
But
Terrifying.
yeah. Oh, I totally understand. Yeah, I would be too. I would be too. It's like a mixture of probably terrified and excitement at the same time.
It is, and I'm more terrified because of the things that we both kind of mentioned today on what we struggle with, with the mental health, because sometimes it can just sneak up on me, and I'm like, why am I so bummed today? Like, things are going good.
Yep.
And I think that's the moment that's terrified. But back to your question, every day kind of is a little bit different. There are multiple things I do. I still have a ton of doctor's visits. I'm still going to primary care doctors and psychologists and psychiatrists and physical therapy, or other types of therapy that I get to do. Physical therapy is kind of done now, but so I have all those visits still going on. Majority of the time, it is working on Sick Burn Podcast, whether I'm clipping things for social media or reaching out to new people to be guests on the show, or working with people to like put out a new episode. And then I still get to do some of the fun stuff on the pop culture side, which kind of got me into podcasting. Yeah. So I get to like work with some other podcasts and websites doing reviews for like movies, shows, comic books, like that kind of thing. So, and then nerd out, dude. Yeah, I love it. I'm a giant nerd. And dude, finding something, I used to be so embarrassed about it, but it's like finding something you love and then just kind of moving towards it. Again, another thing I put out last September is like, just keep moving towards things you love and we'll see what happens, or things that light you up and make you feel good. This is one of those things. And it really does just, I don't know, it gets me out of my shell. Like I didn't want to leave the house when I first had all my scars, and I didn't even have an ear. They had to like build me a new ear. And, there's almost 70% of my body was burned, and then, lost all my fingers. I was like, I'm never leaving the house again. I'm like, I'm a monster now. And the pop culture space is what moved me and gave me a little bit of courage to want to talk about mental health publicly, because I started showing up to these events like Comic-Con, like San Diego Comic-Con, LA Comic-Con, all these things. And I was like, why not? Which became kind of the saying. Yeah. So they're like, hey, you want to go interview this comic book writer? Yeah, sure. Why not? Hey, you want to go talk to the cast of The Sandlot? Yeah, sure. Why not? Hey, you want to go over? And so I just started saying, you know what? You
Real
almost didn't even have.
That, by the way.
Thanks, dude. Yeah. I'll show you the whole interview. It was a surreal moment because, again, for all the reasons I'm talking to you about, it's like I can't do this. Yeah, nostalgia, but also like I can't do this. Like, who am I to talk to them? But we just got to keep moving, or at least for me, I just have to keep moving in a direction that just feels good. And if I know it's not going to kill me, it's just scary, you got to try to push towards it. And that's kind of how I kept showing up. And it built up this confidence a little bit in me enough to say, all right, well, I have depression. I have, I don't know if we can say this, but I have suicidal thoughts. And like, I don't, I'm like, but I want, I'm a human. Yeah. And I'm assuming other humans have these things. And I don't want to struggle in silence if it can help somebody. So maybe this is something I should be saying out there and putting out in the world.
Definitely don't be afraid to, at least on here, talk about any type of suicidal thoughts, anything that dark, because the stats are not in our favor as men when it comes to suicide. Like it's wild. I talked about that with my last guest, and who is involved with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and that's awesome. He knows his stats, and I was like, whoa. I kind of knew him, but when you hear it out loud, it's like 4 out of 5 suicides are men. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what he said. And it's so saying it, somebody else might hear it and be like, okay, these thoughts are, they're relatively normal for a lot of people. I don't even know what normal is anymore. Like, dude,
yeah, true.
It's especially with all the stuff that's gone on in our world, like COVID, all that stuff, Yeah, man. And you were in the hospital during COVID, during like some of the heart of COVID, right?
Yeah. So it was crazy. Like I got out of the hospital for that first stint right as COVID was kicking off. I was home for a little bit, and then like one of my surgeries, skin grafts, like didn't take very well, and then I had to go back in the hospital, and then I was like in and out, like different surgeries, and not all of them were outpatient, so I would have to stay in the hospital and be on antibiotics or get like drips or that kind of thing. So yeah, it was a crazy time for sure. But
weird time to be in the hospital.
Yeah, but to your point, I think there was other people that had it worse. Like I I got pretty lucky with like the unit that they moved me in and where I got to go. And my girlfriend, again now wife, she was able to get like negative COVID tests, and my mom was able to show that so they could come visit. It just like was
Awesome.
in this weird bubble where it really, I kind of got lucky, and there wasn't as many restrictions with it.
You did get lucky, dude.
Yeah.
Especially in California. You guys locked down pretty much more than we did. I'm not saying if that was right or wrong. I have no idea.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, Iowa. Like there were certain things like people were just like, nope, we're not doing that. And I'm just like, all right.
Yeah, I know, right?
I do
Yeah,
have-
I mean,
There were. I did hear about one recovery meeting because most of them shut down, which was scary. Because as I was saying earlier, people who go to meetings regularly typically, stay clean, stay sober, whatever word you use, and we couldn't do that. Everything went to virtual, which was cool. But some of the older people, they're like, I don't want to do that, and
right.
people are like weird about their anonymity online, and I totally get it, and it's not the same as being in person at a meeting with a room full of people,
Right.
but it worked, and there was people like there's COVID, like not COVID babies, but COVID like recovering addicts or recovering alcoholics that had to start online, like that's the start of their story. But I heard about a meeting in Illinois because I'm right on the border of Iowa and Illinois. All that separates me from Illinois is the Mississippi River.
Okay.
And so I could be in Illinois in 10 minutes. But Illinois was a little bit more restricted than Iowa was. And there was a meeting there that just said, hey, we're going to still meet. Like they met at a church. We're still going to meet. We're going to spread out, We're going to try to, keep us as safe as possible. But as much as people need to follow guidelines and restrictions for COVID, it's life or death with some people, with a lot of people when it comes to sobriety. So it's like, and so they kept meeting, and I don't know how true this is. Somebody could have just been talking shit. But apparently, at this meeting, it was the height of COVID. They were still having the meeting anyway. They were like, "We don't care," but they spread out. A cop showed up to the meeting, and like came into the meeting, like walked in, and he was not like somebody that's. Cause some cops are in recovery too.
Sure.
He was just there, and he like looked around. And then he just turned around and just walked out. And he didn't say anything. No one got in trouble. He's like, I get it. I know why you guys are here. Looks like you're trying to do stuff right, Yeah. And then there was people that were meeting in parking lots, and it was in the middle of winter in Iowa, and like it's freezing.
Wow.
Yeah. People did
That's crazy.
People did as much as they could. I mean, because you kind of got to treat addiction recovery the way you treated, getting whatever your drug of choice was. You have to do whatever you need to do to stay on the wagon, basically.
Yeah.
Treat it the same way, and that's why when there's like when there's a storm here. There's always less people at meetings, obviously, because I don't want to drive in the storm or whatever. But I'll show up to the meeting because I'm like, I used to drive through anything to get what I needed to get when I was, out there just acting a fool, But yeah, it's wild. COVID was such an interesting time, and the funny thing is, I was actually in Hawaii. On I believe it's the main island. I don't know Hawaii very well.
On Oahu? Sound right?
I think so.
Like where Honolulu is? Yeah.
Yeah, Honolulu. And we got there like beginning of March 2020, and Hawaii kind of like got shut down with stuff like a little bit later. It was like you guys were like a week or two behind in Hawaii.
Yeah,
because
that makes sense.
Just because of how things move.
Because it's Hawaii time and everybody's a little late. Yeah,
everybody's a little late. Everybody's chilling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was looking forward to like going to a meeting out there and doing all this stuff. And then once we got out there, everything started shutting down. I ended up flying home early.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah, I need to make another trip out there at some point.
Definitely. I think Hawaii got locked down more than California did. You know,
I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to leave.
My mom couldn't, like, so because I had just got out of the hospital, right? And then so, you know, she had basically left Hawaii to be with me in the hospital for those, 6 months or whatever, 5 months. And yeah, and she wanted to make sure I was all good and that I was taken care of. And yeah, by the time it was like time for her to go home, she couldn't leave. Like she couldn't get back into Hawaii because she needed all these tests and stuff. And I don't remember what it was, but it was way more restrictive.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, they were like, we're going to protect our island. We're going to protect this place at all costs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it was just such a crazy time. But yeah, I think, and then the other side to it too, you talked about like the addiction. I luckily didn't get addicted to anything, but there was like one thing I ended up realizing. I was like, man, that's as close as I've ever felt to like being addicted to something. And so the pain medicine they had me on was ketamine, fentanyl, oxycodone, and the last one was called Dilaudid. And I don't quote me on this either, but I'm pretty sure it's 100 times stronger than morphine. And I never and the crazy part is on all of that, I was still in the worst pain of my entire life. I was still like, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
For a while. And then, they start weaning everything down and all this stuff, right? And then I get out of the hospital, like I was saying, and then I had the skin graft didn't take on my back. So they're like, it looks infected. You got to come back in the ICU. And that night, I hadn't taken Dilaudid probably for like 2 weeks at that point. And they're like, hey, do you want some Dilaudid? And I was like, well, yeah, let's try it.
Turn it down, yeah.
Right, exactly. Like the nurse is asking, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because it's, I never experienced anything like this. I never did drugs like growing up or anything, but like as soon as it kind of like, I could see it going down the IV. As soon as it hit my vein, I was like, I could feel it. I was like, whoa, but it just didn't feel right. And at this moment, I don't know why, but I was like, I don't know. I don't like that. It doesn't feel right. I was like, yeah, I'm just never going to take it again. And then I just did it. And then it came back the next, like, hey, do you want more? I'm like, no. And I just was able to kind of shut it down. But that was the closest thing. Yeah. I don't know if I have like
that stuff's so addictive. It doesn't matter who you are, man. Like,
right.
Like,
that's true. I just like, I don't know.
It's a slippery slope for about everybody.
Yeah. I think, and that was one of the things my family and friend said, it was like, it's pretty amazing you did it, kind of fall into something. Yeah. And I'm at home all day, my wife's going back to work. And it's like, I could, I didn't abuse like drugs or alcohol, but if I did abuse anything in the beginning, it was probably video games because it was
escape.
Yeah, it was escape. And also like, it felt like I was doing something again. Every level I got, every time my character, it was like, and then also like, this guy sucks. Oh, this guy's actually good. Or like, I'm better than this guy, you know what I mean? And then there's the status of it all too. It just made me feel like I could achieve again. And I think, what's crazy enough, I go to Comic-Con and I just shared this story on stage. I was lucky enough to get to speak on this panel. And one of my good friends to this day did not even realize he was this very famous comedian. I would just play this video game with him and we would just like run missions and like joke around and laugh. And, eventually like met him in the real world and I'm like, dang, he's kind of like a famous comedian. I had no idea. But that was probably the closest. Okay, I will definitely. Yeah, good dude. But yeah, I think there's other things I guess you can get addicted to and try to escape from. And yeah, that's something I probably didn't even realize.
Yeah. I talk about actually being addicted to video games when I was younger, before substances. Like, I remember, I don't know how old you are. I'm 35. So
I got a couple more years.
when the original Xbox came out, and it basically came with Halo. So I was I was hooked on Halo, dude.
That was awesome. Those were the times.
Yeah, and when you started Halo 2, when you could play online, it was like every day. Like, I'd go to school, get through school, get home, just game until I passed out, and did that same thing like every day for so long. I was so hooked on it, and then I got hooked on playing poker when I was younger, like with my friends, and we were playing for more money than we had. It was stupid, and just ridiculous things like that. And then, then substances came into play, and then it was like, oh, none of that's really that fun anymore. I actually thought about getting back into gaming, but I also am a little bit scared of it too, because I'm just like, am I gonna end up not leaving my house again because I'm gaming?
Yeah. One of the best things that happened to me is that game I was talking about, I was like, I'm going to be the best. It was a Marvel game. I was like, I'm going to be one of the best players at this game. And it had a terrible launch, and everybody was like talking crap about it online. And then after a few years, they shut down the service to like update it and all that stuff. And I'm not going to lie, it was crazy. Like, I was sad. Like,
I bet.
I felt like I lost a friend. I was like, whoa, this thing I poured all these hours into, it's just like they're not going to do anything with it anymore. And as sad and as tough as that was, it was one of the best things, because it was like, you know what? It kind of snapped me back into reality a little bit, where it's like that was also another way you were just trying to escape from the things that are important in life. And, it was fun. It was a distraction, and life can be hard even when we don't have mental health struggles, right?
Oh, yeah.
But getting through those hard moments, overcoming something, working towards something that truly is going to matter in the grand scheme of things in life, and overcoming something, whether it's pain, whether it's just a physical endeavor, whether it's stepping outside of your comfort zone, those always pay dividends, and those always drive you to become a better person that you probably should be. And so I can say, like, I'm not as addicted to video games anymore, luckily, because my favorite game just kind of went away.
Yeah.
It worked out pretty luckily.
Yeah, that worked out well for you. Yeah. Mine was my Xbox 360s kept breaking because they keep...
You got the red rings of death or something?
Oh, yeah. In my college house, we had a stack of them. There was because we all had ones that crapped out. We had 4 stacked up. Yeah.
It's like a Jenga tower of it was old Xboxes.
It was a conversation piece, Yeah.
They're like, dang, look at that expensive art these guys have.
Yeah.
Just like dead Xboxes.
Probably the most expensive thing we had in the house. But yeah. Oh, man. But yeah, we're getting close to time here, and I want to be mindful of that. But I want to ask you one random question I forgot to ask you at the beginning, and
sure.
I think you're the only person I've ever met that is the 8th. So,
yeah.
You got to give me a little bit of an origin story on that and the tradition there, because obviously that's got to be a big family tradition for you.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's been going on. I've heard 1762 and I've heard 1792. So it's either the 6th or the 9th. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But sorry, dog's going a little crazy. I don't know if you hear that in the background.
It's okay.
But yeah, so it's been going on since then. Last name is Craig. So they immigrated from Scotland at some point, and that part of the family immigrated and settled in Wyoming. So that's where my grandpa grew up. That's where my dad was born. But what was crazy is the way my grandpa met my grandma, and they weren't married for long, although they had 6 kids together. She was from Japan, and she during World War II, they had a shop. She got put into an internment camp in Wyoming. And then once they got released, that's where she met my grandpa. But yeah, and so my dad, obviously being Thomas Craig the seventh, yeah, that family, part of that family moved to Washington in Seattle. So I'm a big like Seahawks fan because that's where my dad grew up.
Okay.
And then eventually he moved when he was about 18 years old. With him and his sister, they moved to Hawaii. And so he's been there in Hawaii ever since, and that's where I was born. But yeah, it's been, I mean, hundreds of years it's been going on. And yeah, we just found out we're having a little one not too long ago.
Too, right?
Yeah, dude, that was crazy. One, because I didn't think I'd ever have kids. And then I was like, maybe it's just not meant for me. And
I get
my
that.
wife, really wanted kids. And, we're trying, not trying. And then, it was all of a sudden, it was like, hey, here, I'm pregnant. And we did this whole gender reveal thing. It ended up being
I saw
kind
that
of
video.
cool.
That's sick.
Oh, thanks.
That turned out really good. Yeah.
Thank you. It was cool. It was just, she saw something on TikTok. I was like, we could do that. And then, we made our own. And crazy enough, we pulled out the thing at the park. And I was like, all right, Thomas Craig the Ninth on the way.
On the way. Have you met any other eighths or anyone above you? I don't know how else to put that, but like
we're like more
ninths or tenths, more letters. More Roman numerals.
We went to London last year, and like obviously you got like the 13ths and the 12s and all that stuff, right? But also people only live till they're like 30 or 40. So now like my grandpa's 90 something, and so obviously like the generations are getting farther apart. But no, the closest I've ever met was at a buddy. He was the fourth. And I was like, you're only half of what I am, dude. But also growing up in Hawaii, like there's big like lineage there, right? And so one time I was at the bank, I was like trying to pull some money out or whatever, and the lady goes, "Oh, the eighth," and I was like, "Yeah," because normally people are like, "That's crazy," and she was like, "My nephew, he's the 13th," and I was like, "Okay," like I was like, "My bad."
It was a contest.
Yeah, exactly. So I've never met anybody, but I have heard of people who have more, I guess.
Yeah. Just a fun question, just to wrap it up. But
appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great having you on, man. I could have talked to you for hours. You are a talker. I can. It creates that energy though to get other people talking though, like when you're a talker. So it's like, man, I want to ask this guy way more questions, but I also don't want to be Joe Rogan. I always say this all the time. I'm like, I'm not Joe Rogan. I'm not having 3-hour podcasts.
Right. At least lengthwise. I'll take all the sponsorship dollars and the
I'll
set
take the money.
and all that.
Yeah, I'll take that setup any day.
But the timing, no way.
No. The only time I've ever listened to like a full episode is driving somewhere. Like I was in the car for that long. Otherwise, it's like, man, like, give me a couple clips here. I'll watch and
right. Show me the highlights.
Yeah,
definitely, man.
Highlights.
But I want to say thank you so much for having me on. It was great to connect with you, and shout out to our friend Rena from the Better Call Daddy podcast for like making that happen.
Rena is the GOAT.
She's the GOAT, 100%. But you are too. Thank you for creating this platform. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for, being vulnerable. A lot of what you said I can absolutely relate to, and it's nice to hear when somebody else kind of has the same struggles you do and has the same vulnerability and all that you brought to the table. So I really, really appreciate it. And if anybody wants to check out some more stories after they're done listening to this podcast. It's called the Sick Burn Podcast. Everywhere you listen to podcasts, and on social media, it's Sick Burn Pod, or social media, it's Thomas Craig, VIII, or Thomas Craig 8 on social media. So, dude, just thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Thanks for being vulnerable as well. And that's what it's all about.